beautiful people. Happy July 24th. Good morning. I have my coffee, ready to chat with you. It's Friday. Yay. I'm gonna have to work my day job. It's Friday, so it's not even so bad. Okay, we got a quote from Gary Collins. We can try to avoid making choices by doing nothing, but even that is a decision. Now, with alcohol, gambling, and other drugs gone, we have our choices back. While we can't choose our feelings, we can choose our behavior. And isn't that a relief? We may feel irritated at a driver who's going too slow, can think the situation through and decide how to act. We can tailgate, honk our horns, and carry on, or safely switch lanes and accept that we cannot change. In dealing with spouses, colleagues, and family, we now have the sober mind to stop and time to stop, think, and act rather than reacting when someone pushes our buttons. Having choices again can be a little unnerving because we're rusty at it, but it also brings great freedom. No one wants to feel enslaved, and that's exactly how it feels when we let others control our behavior. We open our lives to a full range of responses when we stop trying to control or to punish others with our anger. In making responsible choices, we find real freedom. Today, let me accept responsibility for how I behave. One of the things that we learned at UPW over the weekend, Tony Robbins calls it changing your state. And we do it every Wednesday night at class. I've probably whined about how, we're dancing at 10 o'clock at night and then I'm supposed to figure out how to go to bed. But to go from anger to, bliss or joy or just losing the anger can be done in a matter of seconds. That's what he showed us. And it has to do with the physiology. Once again, Bobby's not a doctor, so I'm not going to even try to explain it. But essentially, if you got up and danced and smiled and stuff, you can't be frowning when you're smiling, right? Like it's part of it. So when we come into these issues that maybe our addictude had us thinking or feeling anger, bitter, whatever comes up in whatever situation, with our clear, bet-free mind, we then have the opportunity from the outside looking in to make that choice. Well, how do I want to behave? And I'm going to stress that it's not just, stop the bet and this happens, because it's another one of those tools that we have to practice for it to work. When I first left treatment, there was when we were in treatment, Vern taught me, he gave me this 30-second rule. I was only allowed to be pissed off for 30 seconds, and then I had to not be pissed off anymore. So he started working on that skill with me and making me practice. I think I was probably a little bit of a biatch, and I might have finagled up to 30 minutes out of him. And I don't remember all the times I used it or, like when it started to dissipate. But I can actually remember sitting in traffic in Kansas City thinking about this tool and how much it works, If you only allow yourself to be mad for 30 seconds and then change your direction, it's helpful. I mean, the anger doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't even serve ourselves, which is, I don't know. Like, I guess in the context of processing our feelings so that we can move forward on things, maybe anger has value. But I can't think of a long-term benefit to being angry. So this 30-second rule is pretty brilliant, in my opinion. And I'll tell you, I saw something yesterday where a girl was talking about depression, and her counselor or shrink or somebody had told her they'd come up with a 5-minute rule. So if you didn't feel like doing something, you have to do it for 5 minutes. And then if at 5 minutes you don't want to do it, you still want to be depressed, you still don't have your oomph, then you're allowed to quit. But in that 5 minutes, things change. and you could, start enjoying whatever it is that you didn't want to do, or at least not feel as sad and depressed where you don't want to do anything. So it's interesting how we can change in that way. So we have an opportunity to think about our choices and even our feelings. Like, I still am learning when I hear people in yoga or counselors or just whatever I'm listening to or engaged in, and they talk about how your body's impacted by your feelings. Like, you might be able to feel stress in your gut, or, fear and tension in your shoulders, whatever the body places are with the emotions. I have not been able to connect to that still. I can't come up with the words to my feelings a lot of the time. And I try to be really in tune to this, and I still have a long way to go. What I do a better job at, though, is looking at myself from the outside in and thinking about what would I tell my best friend if a situation was happening, or, like how would I coach someone into finding their happy place out of a situation where they might feel stressed or sad or angry or whatever. I mean, last night I was talking to someone who has been feeling like they play a victim role, but they declared they didn't want to play a victim role. So my advice was, what would we talk through the situation that he was feeling like a victim about, and talked about whether or not it was even rational to be, feeling guilt and responsibility for the situation. And I tried to coach him in the direction of like, hey, here we are. It's not logical, and that sucks too sometimes, sorting through the feelings compared to what is logical or rational or whatever. And I think what I'm learning, and I still haven't swayed completely to the whole like empath side of, you can feel those feelings and I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say. Like that gushy, I think of it still as a little gushy or sappy or whatever. I mean, I'm definitely starting to turn more into that. I see that every day. But I don't want to be like crying at Hallmark commercials instead of Hallmark movies, like let it be something big. 2 hours is bigger than a minute, that kind of thing. My feelings are shifting that way. So anyway, yeah, I totally got sidetracked. Again, the conversation that we had was, okay, so is this true? What's the validity of what you're feeling? I'm not saying you're not entitled to your feelings, but are they logical? And I'm a that kind of brain person. I think it's left brain or whatever. I'm a logical, black and white, majority of the time kind of person. And then, what would you tell, I'm telling him, what would you tell, your friend? Or if you stepped out of yourself and really reflected, and it's so not easy to do, to be on the outside looking in. So if you're not willing to do that, the alternative is to hear feedback from other people that can see more clearly outside of the direct situation. Well, that's another skill, right? Being open to feedback and listening to what we might think is criticism. And as I've told you, I've changed my perspective on all the bad things that have ever happened in my life, or things that have made me uncomfortable, or any of the emotions on the bad side of the list. And I framed them to where I'm grateful for them. And that's like, by the way, life-changing. So when you can appreciate all that stuff, it just changes the perspective. So if someone on the outside is trying to give us feedback, hopefully, to help change our perspective, being aware enough to not be defensive, to listen, consider, maybe change your actions, whatever comes out of that. Think of the fact that I would imagine that when you get feedback, and I've been guilty of this, we receive it as criticism. But what if we looked at it as, wow, this person cares enough about me to tell me, to make me aware, to help me through this. Like, if we can think of it that way, as we're being helped when we get feedback, instead of that negative voice winning over the positive one and saying, oh, this person's picking on me, or, getting frustrated or angry with them. Now, I'm not saying that every time somebody gives you feedback, they're right, but I am saying that it doesn't hurt to be open-minded about it and offer a different perspective, and to think of that perspective as a gift. I can't tell you, this was another part of the conversation last night. So this person had one perspective on a subject that they were freaking completely passionate about. Like, that was their line in the sand. Disagreed with me in multiple conversations through the years. And then was put in a situation where his experience then became different and his opinion changed about the whole topic. And I could hear the struggle of, it was like he wasn't allowing himself to change his perspective. That's what I was kind of hearing. He felt like a hypocrite, I think was the word that he said. Here's the thing, guys. We're allowed to change our mind. We're allowed to learn and grow. Like, changing my perspective on him, changing his perspective, is that he's growing and being more open-minded. Not because I told him that how I felt about this topic was the right way to go. Like, my experience with it was different than his at this point. And now that he went through something similar, I that's not even fair. But he's experienced something in the realm of this topic, different, more similar to how I've experienced it. His opinion's changing. I don't know why he would beat himself up over that. Like, it's okay. Like, who do we have to answer to? Pretty much ourselves. Like, we have to feel good about our values and how we show up and how we deal with ourselves every day and how we deal with other people. We have to feel good about that. If we put too much focus on what other people think about what we think, how freaking bananas can we get? I still learn. You can always tell when I'm going to admit something I don't like admitting. I pause. Anyway, I still think when I'm talking to you, there's still a little voice in the back of my head at times going, Bobby, people out there might not like what you're saying about that. Well, that's okay. And I have to tell that voice, well, this is me and this is authentic me. And if they don't like it, that's cool. Like, that's their prerogative. I hope I don't turn them off to where they won't engage with me and listen in case there's things that I've learned and shared that will benefit them. Like, I hope that. But I also have to just accept that they're in a different place in their life. And that's the way it worked with this friend. Was in the past, we've had different experiences and we're in different places in our life about it. I'm actually very proud of him that he admitted his opinion changed. I'm proud of him for, I think he's trying to work through the grief of it. I think it's more complicated than just that. I think there's other variables and this is going to take a long time to heal from this situation that he's in. But, and gosh knows, I hope I got through to him. I doubt it, though. He never really hears me. He's very stubborn and wants to do things his own way. But as an outsider looking in, to me, things look so obvious. And I'm sure that there's been people in my life that when they're telling me something that seems so obvious to them, and they're like, Bobby, get your head out of your ass. Like, can't you see the writing on the wall? It's not like I'm a unintelligent person. It's not like haven't had life experience, but whether it's our heart or I don't know. It's just perspective or my stubbornness in the past. I didn't always listen. And again, that's okay. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And as long as I believe that, I can overcome anything. Like, it's crazy. Back to invincibility. It's definitely my word for the week. So, yes. I totally even forgot what the reading is. Having choices in our feelings. And choices in our actions. Not our feelings and our actions. So how we choose to act is definitely more available to us, or maybe the way we choose to act in a more healthier way is definitely available to us once we quit gambling. If we're still gambling, I know for me, I would still be like in that fog, and there's not, our brain is kind of like our buckets, there's not enough room for positive in our buckets if it's too full with negative. I think our brain works the same way. If our brain is foggy from the bad or the booze or whatever, how can we have clear thinking, logical thinking? It's almost like gambling addiction is illogical. So any healthy thinking that's logical can't fit in the illogical brain. And again, I'm kind of making this up and I'm picturing it in my head. I hope you could picture it too. There's just not enough room. I mean, it's just as simple. You can't be both ends of the spectrum at the same time. So those are my random bambling thoughts this morning on that reading. I do want to give you guys a big shout out. We broke a record yesterday with listens and downloads, and it's just really exciting to watch the community around 321 continue to grow every day. It warms my heart. It just makes me so grateful that I have the opportunity to do this and, be with you a couple times a day. I did get word that my day job is allowing us back in the building on kind of a restricted schedule, but that starts, I think August 10th is what they said. And I happen to be on vacation that week, and I actually might have some very exciting news about that week. So, good stuff is coming up. But anyway, so I still have to finish contemplating whether or not I can pull off doing two shows a day once I start going back to the office. I haven't made up my mind, but that's okay. I'll keep talking through it, and I'll know what the right choice is when I know when the right choice is. That's how it works. It's a beautiful thing. All right, guys. Happy Friday. I will see you tonight. Have a good one.